we learned how to consume old sunlight. Just like you can consume an old bottle of wine. It has a date on it, a vintage year. Well, a barrel of oil is a bottle of wine full of dinosaur, which ate the plants, which ate the sunlight. So it's basically a bottle of sunshine from 50 million years ago. And we have a wine cellar. It's in the Persian Gulf. That's where we keep all our sunlight. And so the way we got to be rich is to learn how to consume yesterday's sunlight, not just today's. Point of all that is, you'll once in a while run across people that think it would be great to be hunter-gatherers again. You can remind them that that was not a really pleasant lifestyle. And if you go back to living on today's sunlight alone, that's what it's going to be like. So we don't want to stop using stored sunlight. We just want to find more of it to use. And so not just oil and gas, but hydrogen and other kinds of things. I was at a meeting at the United Nations in Beijing the other day talking about this issue. We'll talk about energy in a minute. But what I want to talk about is what happens with that energy. This is a baseball, and armed with steroids, this is what Roger Clemens throws at your head at a high rate of speed. And if a ball is moving, all the particles in that ball are moving in the same direction. Physicists would call that kinetic motion. He might also call it work, because work means like you're lifting something, and that's work to a scientist. He might also call it coherent motion, because all the particles are moving in a coherent way together. All those are the same thing to a scientist. This is a picture of the same baseball placed in an ordinary oven at 450 for 2 hours. It gets really hot. Hot just means big vibrations of all the particles, but instead of going together, they're crashing into each other. Whenever you feel something that's hot, it's just crashing particles. There's a big difference, though, between this thermal motion and this one. It's the difference between work and heat. In a business, that would be the difference between product and cost, or profit and waste. In the economy, what would we call work? We'd call it GDP. So basically, any policy, the test of any policy any politician shows you is, will that policy make there be more work or less work in the economy? If it makes more work, it's probably going to make us richer. If it makes less work and more heat, it's probably going to make us poorer. And that's kind of the litmus test of any economic policy to me. So when someone says, I want to tax you for working so you'll work less, that doesn't sound like a very good idea to me. That's the simplest reason why low tax rates are helpful to GDP and growth and all that. But basically, that's the only science we need to do what we're going to do. We need one more fact I'll show you in a minute. It's the difference between work and heat. Now, back to the sunshine. Hunter-gatherers were running around with that's us, with our spears, chasing the antelopes. And all of a sudden, we discovered how to mine stored energy. Energy is stored in a lot of different ways. One way is resources like oil, gas, and coal, which are really just stored dinosaurs, which equals stored sunlight. And we know how much of those we've got, roughly. Not exactly, because nobody's actually been under that sand. They just guess at it. And all of the resources we've got come from that source. But technology is actually also stored work. And the reason we know that is the light bulbs are on in the room. We can all see each other. Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. He's dead. How is it possible we can turn on the lights without Thomas Edison? Well, we stored Thomas Edison in a blueprint that we registered as a patent, and now we use it all the time. We don't need him anymore. So technology is a way of storing people's energy to use over time, where you can sort of print it over and over and over again, so it's a leverageable stored resource. People are also stored energy. I know that because actually one of my young children is here today with us. And let me tell you, you really make large investments in young people before they become productive and have net value added to the world. But you're definitely in that You're definitely in that phase right now. But anyone here who's ever written a tuition check knows what I'm talking about. First you gotta feed them, and then you gotta pay them to go away. Anyway, all of that stuff you invested in your kids, that's stored energy too, and you store it for 20 or so years. And so human capital is stored energy, and so are tools. Economists talk about capital. Capital is really a tool that allows you to make your effort make more products. So it leverages your work. And so capital stock is tools. Now, if you think of all those as the energy at our disposal, where are they? Where are all the people in the world? They're all in Asia. Right? I mean, there's 3 billion people in Asia. 1.5 billion in China, 1 billion in India, and then another billion around. There's 1 billion in North Africa.